citizen.
Out of many
We are world citizens, same vision is for equal rights and justice for the people them. What's happening to this beautiful world that we're living in? World citizen, lift up your voice.
Welcome to another episode of the People Powered Planet podcast, where each week we bring you solutionaries. The world is filled with so many shows and so much news about all the terrible problems in the world and the worst depth of problems you can even imagine. What we focus on is people who have a key to the solution, how we can plant those seeds that will turn it around and help us create what our mentor, Gary Davis, called the People Powered Planet podcast. And the special guest we have today is Suzanne Taylor. Now, she's gone way back in being a visionary, and she also was someone who followed Gary's story closely as well. Now, Suzanne was an actress, a TV actress. Her many credits included the Dick Van Dyke Show. She was playing Dick Van Dyke's secretary in the feature film Divorce American Style, I Dream of Jeannie, My Favorite Martian, and other shows. But what I especially enjoyed was listening to her programs of the Cosmic Fuel Pump. The Cosmic Fuel Pump. I'll ask you. Well, before I ask you what the Cosmic Fuel Pump was, I'll say that the especially extraordinary thing is that now Suzanne has sponsored a contest on. It's now 2050. Looking back, how did the world get here? How did we get to a world that works? How did we get to a cooperative world? And our world is driven by stories. In every war, each side has a different story, and their story, they're saving the world against these terrible others. And somehow, if stories create our world, and stories are what we visualize and that help become our reality, we need a new story for the planet. And so we're very excited, and I was so much enjoyed reading the many essays that she received for people visualizing and looking back. But let me go ahead and start with, what in the heck is a cosmic fuel pump?
That was my favorite thing I ever did. This cosmic fuel pump was somebody wanting me to become a major speaker, like I'd be Deepak Chopra, So how are we going to, somebody had seen me producing this big project. I kind of went off on another way of this project, was kind of the end of an era in LA. But he wanted me to be on the speaking circuit. He wanted me to be a superstar. And he said, well, we'll practice on local TV in LA. We'll do, and so we did this program called the Cosmic Fuel Pump. I did 36 of them. And each week I would be an authority on life. And my producer was called Max Eden. So Garden of Eden became an idea. Like, I had like 8 people living in my house. I was sleeping in the living room because the whole team was living in the house for a year. And so we called ourselves Garden of Eden Productions. How could people live together in perfect peace? That was kind of the theme. How can we create a world where we live together in perfect peace? And it was so fun to be, an expert. But I'm also, I have a great streak of fun loving. So it was always very charming and winky and fun. And I was the cosmic cheerleader. I was the whiz of is. I had the great appreciator. I had various titles. I had little cards up for my titles, and we did it all in a cartoon setting, just to make it fun, but fun, serious fun. And so that was that was my career then.
I remember in your first Cosmic Fuel Pump show, you talked about this total feeling of soul connection with the entire universe, this entire oneness, and it wasn't just talking about an abstract way, oh, we're all one. It was this wonderful feeling you shared with the audience, where we all felt that vibrant oneness and soul connection, and so I really enjoyed that you were doing as a young person. And I saw that you had one with Albert Einstein. Tell us about Albert Einstein.
Well, he was a great impersonator, and he was good. He was very Albert Einstein. So, we had a show. I was interviewing Albert Einstein. So that was fun.
And then I noticed in one of them you talked about Robert Mueller, saying that and meeting with him, Robert Mueller was inspired by Gary onto his journey, and his wife Barbara Mueller's been on our show, a wonderful spirit in the world. But he was telling you that the world lacks a philosophy, a unifying story, right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, people today don't, by and large, I think, are not aware of what an extraordinary person he was. One of those rare individuals who stood like Gandhi, that kind of stature. Here he was at the UN, and he was second there, undersecretary.
Right.
Unthinkable today. We would have anybody talking like that today in government. But here he was, a beacon of all the things we talk about now, that have in the years since then have become kind of, our standard conversation. But he was such a, forerunner of all the ways that we understand the world could be. And here he was at the UN, So I met with him at the UN, actually. And I don't know somehow how that connection got made, but I remember my producer and I were sitting with him, and I was so in love with him. I was just like I was with Gary. I was in love with Gary, all these extraordinary people, not all of them, so few of them, but, they stand out. And it was such a pleasure when lunchtime came, and he said, okay, look, go to lunch, but come back after. I want to talk to you some more. So we had 2 sessions with him, and yeah, we don't have them like that anymore. One of the things we could say about the world is we don't have people like that anymore. Look, who's out there calling us to our finest? Who? That's important and visible. I am, but I'm not important and visible. And you are. But who's the leader? Nobody. We don't have any leaders like that today. I guess the Dalai Lama, always, but he's a little quiet leader,
And of course, one of the things that Gary Davis talked about was to try to create a system that brought out the leadership of all of us, that each individual's highest and best wisdom could come together to create, that we the people are the governors of our planet, and that once we recognize that, once we recognize our oneness, once we step out of this nation state box that has us fooled into thinking we're we're people on the side of an invisible line we created on a map, and that we have to fight the people on the other side. I think one of your essay contest comments put that very well.
They, all of the essays were picturing this world that worked, and how did we get there was the challenge to write, and I did that. If you want to switch over to talk about my essay contest, I've always been a kind of a strange character, different, stranger in a strange land kind of thing, being kind of more like Gary and Robert Mueller, but without the spotlight on me. And so I developed a whole dossier of what we the people could do, considering government isn't delivering for us. We can't really expect our government that's controlled by money to have these ideals, or we could expect it, but we don't get it. And so I do what I do, and I have a whole dossier of really intelligent things that we the people could do because we have the internet. I also wonder what would Gary have done if we'd had the internet, if he could have organized that way, because he was such a powerful being. But at the time, you get an audience in an auditorium, you don't get the world. And I did wonder if the internet had been like it is now, what Gary would have done. But at any rate,
yes, well, that's an interesting question, because at the end, he got very excited when the internet came along. He thought this was the key to doing what. See, he had hired a Buckminster Fuller disciple to actually help create his model for a synergistic system of how we the people could govern our world. And it was really kind of a model where you had small groups interacting like being on the spokes of a geodesic sphere. And if all of us are on this sphere, if you take the old organization chart top down, one's underneath the other. But if an organization is organized like a geodesic sphere, we're all on top, and that these interacting spheres could interact with each other. It's sort of like if we had these Zoom conferences, but with people on opposite sides of political issues, like Arabs and Jews coming together and others. And those came to, and they asked not who's right and who's wrong, because they'd get nowhere, but what's our story? What's our vision for the future? What do we want for our children? What are the topics that we would like to solve? And you find that all these people who seem to be on opposite sides of issues start finding a great synergy and something. Well, synergy is even above compromise and above I give a little, you give a little. It's something beautiful comes out of it that's even greater than the original pieces that went into it. And so indeed, it fits right in with your idea of people, of it bubbling up from the bottom in the people.
Well, we need heroes. And, had the internet been as advanced as it is now in his day, I'm sure he would have made fabulous use of it. We might be in a different world, really. He was that powerful a communicator, and powerful also because he was delightful.
He was like you. He liked to play. He loved to play.
Tell me, who is out there now who's delightful and inspirational on the big stage? Name one. Very, very hard to find. So with me having all these, I think, really fabulous ideas for what we the people could do. We could do a show much longer if I got you into all the thoughts that I had, but I couldn't get any traction with them. I couldn't get people to talk about them. I thought, so I'm always, how do I do this? How do I become an influence on the world? And I know I've got the right idea. So I thought, well, nobody is talking. Why don't I invite people to talk? And guess what the secret was? No surprise. I put money behind it. I offered money prizes. I wouldn't have gotten anywhere without that, because, hey, I don't mean to be critical, but it is the way the world works. And oh yeah, another do-gooder. Why bother to pay attention to that? Well, I could win some money. So I'm not saying that the people who entered were there for the money. It just legitimized that it was a serious request worth paying attention to. And so I got about 175 entries into this. How could the world work? I'm looking for ideas for people to think. But I'll tell you the unexpected result. First of all, I got just so many ideas that now the question is, oh my gosh, what do I do with them? How do I get them out? How do I work with them? How do I introduce them? But maybe the most interesting aspect of all was not so much the ideas, which are plenty interesting, but what it did energetically to people. So many of the entrants communicated to me, or even was part of their essay, that this contest got them thinking. They had been passive before, not because they were passive, because they were helpless. It's like, what can I do? Recycle? What's that going to do? So they just stopped thinking. Everybody just became kind of catatonic in the what can we do department. And this got them thinking. And not only did they start thinking about what they would write, they're now wanting to think about what to do. Really, what to do. So I have a tiger by the tail here. I have these. I said, well, I've got this Zoom enterprise going now. Like the people who are most interested in pursuing this, in dealing with not just their essays, but everybody else's and beyond. What can we do? I just sent an email because we're organizing Zooms, and I counted how many people I had on this list who wanted to continue in a creative way to participate in thinking together. I had 35 people. Oh my God.
I don't know, maybe that gives you some chance to do the kind of synergistic meeting that Gary was talking about. How are you going to coordinate and bring together these 35 people into a cohesive Zoom meeting that does become synergistic?
That is the challenge of the moment. We don't really do that. What we do is we listen to speakers and we Q&A them. Mostly we're audience for presentations. And we don't really have oh, I'll do it that way. Wait a minute. What way is that? How do we create together? How do we get on and save the world together? But so one of the wonderful things that has happened, because I don't know the answer to that, and oh, what'll I do? But somebody who wrote an essay, I recognized the name. I thought, I know that name. I went and looked him up. He's one of the leading mediators in the world. He lives in England. Lawrence Kirshen is his name. And so he wants to help me organize everything. Oh my gosh. Whoa. So now I have a world-class player helping me figure out what to do. So I sent him this thing. I said, I think this is what I'm going to send to the people to tell them what to do for the next Zoom. There's 35 people who want to think together. And he said, send them an interim. Save the date, but you and let's us figure out what we're going to do. Oh, okay.
Wow.
So,
I'd love to be part of that process with them. Maybe we can
you're
help
on
them
that
build.
mailing list. You're
Yes,
one of the
yes,
35. You told me you wanted to. Oh, you
absolutely.
that because I sent you that email
Right.
yesterday.
Yeah, no, I know that I'm on it, but right, so even in planning for the meeting, the synergistic system that the mediator, because I've always pictured how can we uh, take a group of people that are trying to come to a conclusion, and how can we have kind of like a dashboard of that
Really?
organizes how we do our interactions so that we're actually creating that cohesive whole. And he, as a professional mediator, he's probably very aware of many of those skills. We put many of those mediator practices into a program. Well, we'll talk about that later, but a program I created called Bully Proof, which also takes the top 10 mediator kind of concepts and makes them easy to remember and digest. But uh,
Hey, Arthur, if you have ideas for what we should do, email me.
but
Really.
but but
We're
back to
making it
the
all up.
yes.
My slogan back in the Cosmic Fuel Con days was, we're making it all up, so it might as well be wonderful. So,
Absolutely, I love it. Yes.
so I've
Well, yeah, let's
adopted that. It's now in my signature.
right. Well, yes, I agree, and let's make up together because the 35 people can be the core of this cohesive, interactive group that begins to spread ideas. And maybe we could share with our audience a few of the ideas. I can just run through a couple of ones that kind of jumped out at me, or you could. Well, maybe you want to start. You want to tell us? Okay, so your grand prize was Marie with the Circular Economy Club, swap, recycle, reuse. Tell us a little bit more why she attracted you as a grand prize.
Well, first of all, I didn't vote for the grand prize winners. I had the essayists. I picked out my top 20, and then I turned it over to the people who'd written the essays to vote on those 20. And they didn't vote the way I would have voted, by the way. I'm a kind of as I have mentioned, I have a little fun-loving streak, and they picked very serious things mostly. And I would have picked some more kind of trippy sort of entries. But the commonality, there were some commonalities among them. Like somebody starts something small, and it has to do with people coming together for whatever they're coming together for, some objective, like this one that you're talking about. So these people got together over this thing. Oh my goodness, all this waste fabric, cheap clothing that we sell now, and it goes into the dump, and these just tons of waste clothing. I've actually seen documentaries about that. That's true. So it became, no, don't throw it away. Use it, recycle it, make things out of it, cut them up, do ways not to, just a good
Right,
idea.
right.
But that grew. So this little thing attracted more people, and then a branch, and then another branch, and then the branches started attracting more ideas to get behind it. But a lot of them did that. A lot of them started with some little thing that grew, and it always had to do with human beings coming together. The essays did not
Right.
tell you that AI saved the world, except one
Except one, yes.
that I would have made into a prize winner, which is AI creates your I don't know if it had a name, but it's your companion. And
Right. It was
you
like a Buddha that you talk to, that consoles you, that knows everything about you, and
no,
cares.
it loves
Talk
you.
to him, loves
It
you.
loves
It
you.
loves you,
And it
knows
keeps
everything about you.
telling you how wonderful you are. It keeps telling you how good you are, how good your ideas are. It's your mirror to show you how wonderful you are. I thought,
And to
you
bring
know,
out that wonderfulness in each person.
well, of
That was
course
an
you see,
intriguing one. Yes.
of course you see it and you do more of it. I thought that alone, if we could get that, that would save the world. If everybody felt good about themselves, you
Uh,
we have a different world. If people were different, the world, as we think, so we act. So if we think of ourselves as fabulous, we act, one of the things I've noticed lately, I've gotten this feedback. I've done interviews, what have you, and I had a biography. I talked about my biography. And in my biography, I had loving parents who thought I was wonderful. I was an only child. They doted on me. They just thought I was the cat's meow. So guess what? I behaved that way. I
yes.
mean, they thought my dad would joke with me. I come home from school in 98 and he'd say, "Where's the other 2 points?" It was a joke, but it wasn't. He expected me to be excellent. Hey, okay, I'll be excellent. It was
Right.
a great start. People can overcome their terrible childhood, and sometimes that's wonderful. They get really high on that. Uh, but that's not as common as people who start out feeling good about themselves, feeling good ongoingly. So,
Right.
if I could save the world, I'd say that essay I thought was just worndful.
One of them that was pretty comprehensive and that I was quite impressed with was the one by uh, Max Darmon about restoring our world, and his was just a very practical rundown of basically how California and just how in one city someone's starting a program, but it actually was real stuff. He had produced a documentary called "The Future of Energy: Lateral Power of the People." And he talked about how actually several Republican mayors have made cities that are 100% recyclable, and and how you could. He documented all these things about how you could begin to create, renewable energy, a green revolution, and he even talked about in China and everywhere that starting from a pretty small interaction of cities, it's kind of like the video about mayors ruling the world, that even while countries are like fighting each other, cities are actually solving problems, and that we could actually solve all these problems by one city creating a model, the other city duplicates it, other ones do it, and that they really are happening. His was so good because it was actually practical stuff that's happening and coming together. So I was pretty excited by his essay. What did you
No,
think of
I
Max
love that one. I
touring the
love that.
world?
He became the mayor of this very progressive, already a progressive leaning little small town city. Uh, and everything they instituted there was in accordance with, regeneration and all of the ideals that make things work. And that city became a model for other cities. And he developed that very well. Oh, that could really happen. Get one city to get it all right. And he wrote a very convincing development of that into the workable world. Yeah.
Yes, I thought very much so.
You know
Uh,
what I really liked in those essays? Several of them. The secret to getting the world to work was Taylor Swift. Oh, what a powerhouse. What a powerful, oh my God, wouldn't it be wonderful if she came out for Biden? I mean, I'm not a huge Biden. I wish both of them weren't running, but hey, this is what we got. So wouldn't it be wonderful if she would come out for Biden? I bet she could swing the election, you
uh,
know?
hmm. Now he also, by the way, talked about tribal councils led by led in creating rights of nature initiatives. There was so much in his essays,
Yeah.
and but
Those are rich. I mean, we really got some beautiful, beautiful concepts that you could see putting into practice, you
yeah.
know?
Another one I loved was or part of it was the fossil fuel lobby had been our greatest adversary. Once the government represented people, not corporations, we struck a deal with the major corporate interests. We gave them ownership of renewable energy economy and let them manage the energy sector of the U.S. in exchange for running their companies as B Corps, which meant that they had to adhere to the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit. In doing this, we incentivized the great turning so that businesses could be part of the positive transformation of our society. Once we convinced businesses that it was financially lucrative to be socially conscious and ecological minded, the power of innovation and commerce shook the world for good.
Well, wouldn't that be a swing, you know, if and it's isn't it interesting? The businesses that do like Patagonia, you know, famous for its good policies, good, you know, the kind of company that isn't just there for the money. Uh it and with models that we actually have of how these positive practices are actually financially rewarding, which of course is what basically runs everything in the world we have now. And yet still, it doesn't create that big swing to that kind of activity. I always think that's kind of odd. You can even demonstrate, you know, how these good practices are good money too, and yet but I think also it's such a complicated world. Our gears are set, and to make those gears fundamentally change is, you know, very challenging, and we haven't got it going yet. You know, do you want to talk at all about? I know you want to talk about that essay contest, but do you want to talk at all about my fundamental idea of what could really change? You know, what I'm always interested in is what can change everything, not how to fix this problem, how to fix that problem, because all the problems come from fundamental uh, beliefs that we hold. And if we change those beliefs, we'll change the way we act. And then everything will get affected by that. So I'm always looking, that's why I did my crop circle movies. Because if it were ascertained and the world accepted the fact that those crop circles are not being made by us. Oh, there's another intelligence comparable to ours, better than ours. We're not visiting them, they're visiting us. Well, that would just affect everything. Everybody'd have to rethink everything.
So what is the one thing that could
Okay, so the thing that I'm on, okay, if I ran the world, I would teach everybody in the world a new creation story. Every culture has a creation story. Who are you? Where do you come from? What's life all about? And our creation story has us as sinners struggling to, you know, become better. No, we're sacred creatures. And if we've accepted the fact that the whole universe is sacred, what's God? God's the universe. It's everything as a kind of a in the universe story, which is Teilhard de Chardin to Thomas Berry to Brian Swim as my favorite contemporary storyteller. It's an evolutionary story. We're not on a dead rock in a dead universe, fixed universe, using our Earth. No, it's an evolving universe. It started somewhere and it keeps going. It's alive. And we humans are, in the part of it that we know on Earth, we are the most evolved creatures. And we're all united in this living process of evolution. So as one humanity, we are here to take care of the earth, not to use it. So if you get this story, it's only 100 years old, the story. It goes back to Hubble, which you know that before Hubble, we thought this was the only galaxy. That's only, what, 100 years old or so. There are trillions of galaxies. We thought we were the only one, you know? So we got the idea from that this is an evolving universe. And if we all tuned into that and viscerally which is the way I get it. Yes, I am part of a great whole, and I'm connected to all of it, and I'm here to help it all. Well, if all of humanity operated with that creation story, we would be in a different world. So if you say to me, well, what would you do if you ruled the world? I teach everybody that creation story. In fact, I have a little animation in the works now that I've commissioned to tell that story and to give a tool for those of us who understand this to be able to use it to teach everybody else. But that's one of my, my absolute leading lights of my ideas about what we can do, which is all I think about. What can we do? Yeah.
Well, I think that's so beautiful and so incredibly important, and I think it's so absolutely true that that by creating a new story, that's the key that can kind of save the world. Because all these fights are about one story versus another. They're not about really even needing the basic. Fight over resources is all part of it, but that all grows out of the story we're creating about what makes us what makes things work for us and our families on planet Earth. And so I do want to, I mean, I could go on about these essays, and I'm so grateful for you for starting this conversation, but I do want to open it up for questions from other people as well. So let me turn this over to Melanie, and we'll come back a little bit toward the end to thank you and ask people how they can interconnect and be a part of this. But go ahead, Melanie.
Thank you, Arthur and Suzanne. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I want to say that same thing happened to me. The question is 2050. How did we get here? I'm like, my brain, trying to get into that mode. We have to be, I think more into that mode, like with your suggestion, a new creative story. Oh, I'm powerful. Yes, we can do this. We'll take care of the earth instead of using it. So such an important exercise. And then I love the AI. That was, yes, people need to know that, because even the most positive person will say, oh, you can't do that, or, that's not going to work. And then you don't do it, and it doesn't work because you never did it. So that's important, so important, and so lovely. And I would love to be part of the group. And I would like to say, we have a question. David Gallup has a question for you. So David, go right ahead.
Hi, Suzanne. I'm so pleased to meet you and learn about your current actions to save the world. So I have a two-part question. How did you move from the Hollywood sort of Los Angeles self-indulgence to selflessness and wanting to help others? And then as part of that question, what did you take from your career as an actor to change that into a passion for saving the world?
Well, there was a very specific turning point where I turned to the world. I had a relationship that I thought I was going to be the relationship. After this was, I've been married once, and I've been unmarried for a long time. And so I had this, I thought it was going to be the relationship, somebody I was with for about a year. And we were both very turned on by the human potential movement. I met him actually at Esalen, if you all know. Some people don't even know about Esalen, which is this great place for workshops and discovering yourself in Big Sur here in California. And we were there discovering ourselves, and we discovered each other. And so we were writing a book, The Rashomon of a Relationship, that Japanese movie Rashomon, where three people are involved in the same incident and they tell it from their points of view. So we were two people in a relationship and we told it from our points of view. We have this book, and it was how to have a perfect relationship, but then we broke up. And we didn't have a perfect relationship. I couldn't do anything with the book because it didn't have an ending. It never got published. But I thought after that, okay, if us two who are so steeped in this new understanding can't make it together, the world needs more from me than soap commercials. I was very successful making commercials. I made a lot of them. More successful at that because I was married at the time and my husband was not too keen on my leaving the house. I had to take care of the children. So but commercials only took a day to make, or two maybe. And so I was very successful making commercials. But I thought, and I was also a painter. I was a post-impressionist painter, like Van Gogh, but not as good. But I did have a one-woman show. That's what I was doing at the time, and at this relationship. And I thought, if this relationship doesn't make it, what am I doing painting pictures and selling soap? No, I have to save and help the world. And I just stopped doing all the stuff I had been doing and turned around to see what I could do to help the world. And then, we could talk forever about the things that I went on to do and, what have you. And then comparison of, so you asked me something about the comparison of Hollywood and that life, because I was married to a very successful producer, director, comedy writer. He started as a comedy writer, and we were, in the Hollywood scene, so to speak. But so my evaluation is, I'm sorry to say, Hollywood was more fun. I love my consciousness world, but it's a little tame compared to Hollywood. I'm, a feisty person, and I'm in a feisty person in a troubled world here. So, but I don't complain. It's not like I'm going back to that. I'm still out here on the front lines, because now I'll tell you one more interesting thing. As I observe, nobody's looking for what to do now. This is really important. I'm a scout. I'm in everybody's face. I'm on all the Zooms. I'm looking around. Where are my buddies? Where are my allies? Where can I talk to people about major things we could do? So I couldn't find any conversation about that at all. And so when I say to people, hey, there's nobody talking about that, I sound like an idiot. Or of course there are people talking about that. It's illogical, right? So I just got some confirmation from somebody who runs something like Wikipedia for our world, wiki blah, 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 something. And he knows everything. He knows everything that's going on. So he wants me to come on a certain program. And yeah, that'd be fine. He said, Suzanne, you're the only person out there who's talking about what we can do now. Oh my God. I can't tell you how empowering that was to me, because I'm a little even embarrassed to say it, because it sounds so ridiculous. But when he said that, I thought, yes, it doesn't take much. I've had some great allies over the years like that, unusual people who probably you guys wouldn't even remember. But anyway, when they confirm me, it's like God saying, hey, you're God too. Okay, that's all I need. It gives me the energy to stand tall and to not be scared of being egotistical, So that was a fabulous confirmation. And this is fairly new. This is like a week or two old. So watch out.
It's just like the AI. Someone told you that you are powerful, and then you believe it, and then you can do things. It's so important. Oh my gosh. And I also wanted to go back to, you mentioned before, if people believed actually that the crop circles were real, then the whole change in mind would happen. And I just also wanted to ask real quick the update on the crop circles, because I watched both movies and they was fascinating, interesting. I loved them. You were like an investigative reporter, going around getting all the information, and it's very detailed. The second one, very detailed with a lot of experts. And, I know people are curious to want to know, what is the update on the crop circle in your view?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that the movie that I made, the first one I was the executive producer on, and I supervised and I watched. And then I thought, I could do that, because it didn't do some of the things I wanted it to do. I had a little argument with the director. And I thought, oh, I can do that. And so I made one. And so the second one is my movie. And that got a good review in the New York Times. So we don't want to not say that because that legitimizes it, you know. Shockingly, I got a good review in the New York Times. But it used to be a thriving industry, you could say, cottage industry. There was such enthusiasm for it. People came from all over the world to see them. The people who were producing events about them or stories about them or focused, you know, like me, making movies about them. We were the crappies. It was so wonderful. I went every summer for several years and met with my you know, soul buddies. But there was always controversy. The hoaxers would throw up controversy. In some ways, it kind of made it interesting. You know, the world likes controversy. But then they got uglier and uglier. The hoaxers became nasty and mean, and energy changed. And then at some point, it just became very uncooperative and unkind over there. And the whole thing, the community dissolved. There's no more going there and finding your buddies and what have you. And my opinion was that after that, they're all hoax. Now, I could be wrong. There's definitely a mystery. The world treats it like, oh, that got solved. It was just those two old guys with boards. Oh, no. That's such a fake story from way, way back. They're back to that one again. It's still a mystery. There's no way that phenomenon got delivered by hoaxers. And yet, somehow or other, we couldn't get any investigative reporters. If there was one good investigative reporter, they could get to the bottom of it. And if that revelation came that, wait a minute, we're not making, what's making them? There's another intelligence equal to ours in the universe. That would humble us, boy. We've got it that we're the smarts in the universe. Well, what if we're not? Oh, you got to rethink everything. That's another major idea. I mean, it's why why I got so involved, because I thought that could change the world. But you can just feel it like, oh, we're not alone. We've got something else going on. And, you know, if we acknowledged or if we received that in a positive way, I think they'd help us more. I think they can't intrude. They can't force us to pay attention to the bigger picture. But if we paid attention to them in a respectful way, they're ahead of us. You know, we're not visiting them, they're visiting us. And they know more than we know about how could they get here? It's not possible, except they're here. You look at the UFO stuff where there's some evidence that they protect us. There's evidence that when we were about to destroy ourselves in some nuclear thing, the UFOs interfered with that. And that seems pretty credible. Those, like, something's watching. And again, there's a directive in the universe. You know, nothing can come and save something else in some seemingly directive. But that, you know, if you're receptive, it's a different story. You know, then you're asking for it rather than being given it and forced to do it. So, you know, our attitude could help a lot, you know, if we were more curious and, you know, we would get rewarded, I do believe. So maybe this current UFO rave of interest, maybe it'll come back to that. Fingers crossed.
Oh,
Because
wow. I love that.
Play again.
Yeah.
If we really go further with this UFO thing, the crop circles will come back, and they provide a different kind of evidence from UFOs. That's on the ground. You can. It's tangible. It's not maybe this, maybe that. It's there. All you have to do is go, wait a minute. An authority says we can't do that, which was what we say, but we don't have that authority from, you know, the scientific world that everyone would pay attention to. So
goodness sakes, I'd like to go ahead. I know that Arthur has a burning question, and we'll go to Arthur now. Arthur, take it away.
Well, well, first of all, I just love your whole spirit, and despite all odds, continuing on the vision of a positive future, and then drawing this contest together, bringing people from all over the world is remarkably important. And one place where you're visualizing and your vision and the Hollywood community merge, and that is to say that Star Trek created in people's imaginations visions of what could happen in the future, so many of which have come true because they inspired people. They gave them the idea. They started the talk. And Star Trek originally, or many of the best shows, are not really fighting or destroying, but a group of people coming around trying to solve problems at a global level, understand other intelligences, understand people different than you, communicate across species and connections. And I think a lot of it is for us humans to uh, to recognize that it's our own interactive capability. And I think one of the rules in Star Trek were that you couldn't intervene in another society, and a planet wasn't allowed to join the Federation unless it had a world government. If it didn't have a way of governing its world, well, there's no way it could connect with the rest of the universe. It didn't even have a way for people to come together and govern. And I know we have Renee Wadlow and other people who've been interested in that issue.
Arthur, is that where that prime directive came from? That no interference? Was that Star Trek? Is
Yes.
that where it came?
Yes.
I didn't realize that. Okay, because I know that's the prime directive. No, nobody can go help another civilization without imposing that help on them. Nobody can do that.
Yeah.
They have to want it. Yeah.
In that vision there, I mean, in the Star Trek, and Roddenberry's vision is to set that up, and we did have his son on our podcast. But basically, it was that there was a world government. It was headquartered in San Francisco, and one of our other guests, Nicholas Meyer, was the director of Star Trek movies, including he wrote the one about how whales had gone extinct in the future, and that was about to destroy the humanity, and they had to travel back into the present to bring some a mating pair of whales into the future in order to save the world. And that Nicholas Meyer wrote that, and he directed Star Trek movies. He is one of our other allies in trying to both. He's in the movie Television Event. You'll see him in that, but he's someone who has both. Understands the negative of what could happen, but also the power of story to change things. So let's work together to bring together our visions with people in Hollywood to help get them out widely, to make them part of the meme of the new story. As you develop your new story for humanity, let's find ways to get that in the medium we have, which is this connection where you started in Hollywood.
Really, I was thinking with Gary, if he'd had the internet, thriving at that time, because you have all those separate Hollywood endorsements, famous people endorsing him, he could have put them together. I think that's one of the secrets also of my agenda for what could, my imaginative ideas. I think about a wisdom council of the wisest, people on our persuasion, coming together into what I call a wisdom council, and the world would listen because we listen to celebrities, and we can do that. We the people can do things like that thanks to the internet. Now that I've got that essay contest and all these ideas, I'm going to get my ideas back into play too. So that's one.
Absolutely. Good for you. Well, that's a terrific one. And I noticed that in one of your essays, they also talked about people would come together in deliberation consensus around shared objectives, and then they would kind of have a check on the politicians. They could initiate a vote of confidence to block any politicians stepping out of line with that vision and shared objectives of what humanity wants. If we can create the vision, if we can create the story, if we can create where we want to go, then the leaders will follow. The leaders aren't the creators of it. The leaders will rabble rouse us, and whatever will give them power, and that can be division and strife. But if we, the people, can come together, they'll all want to join us. So we need to.
That's the secret. The secret word come. The secret come together. We're gadflies now, and we don't. One of the things in my elemental scheme for things is what I call a coalition for the good. I mean, you could call it anything, for the people, whatever. But the idea that we could be bigger than the Democrats and the Republicans, not political, but outside of politics, a force. Here we have the internet. Why are we not collecting ourselves? I mean, that's so elemental. We're idiots. Everybody's separately poking, but we're separate people trying to do the same thing. For heaven's sakes, join together. So Another one on my agenda.
Beautiful, beautiful. Any other comments from people that want to jump in with a thought or a question or a comment for Suzanne?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, I love this conversation. It's really what I love the most. A quick comment on the Patagonia concept of really stakeholder capitalism, of like taking care of people and the planet. Everything that your business touches should be cared for equally. That's really powerful, and I think it has to be incentivized by tax policy, which can obviously, like what we're doing with solar, you incentivize and the good things, and you de-incentivize the bad things like the fossil fuels and tax them more. But towards the concept of bringing the world together on the internet, that's what we're trying to create with David Gallup and the World Citizen Passport, is build a citizen social network. Maybe David Gallup will say a few words about how the World Citizen Passport can serve as the foundational identity notes, like you were talking about earlier. And it's all about like, what's your story as an individual, as a sovereign citizen. Like, you could have a system where you make pledges, or what I'd say even more exciting is social contracts. And so you could build agreements that way, citizen peer to peer, outside of the realm of any political sphere.
Well, we could sure use some power behind these good ideas. It's interesting, kind of interesting might be not the right word, but that we don't have powerful leaders. We don't have people rallying us. We don't have Gandhis or Mandelas, or we don't have those wonderful people who can actually reach everybody. So we're little, but then again, we have the internet. So some way, and maybe that's purposeful on the part of the universe. Wait a minute, nobody's going to save you. Even powerful leaders aren't going to. You have to save yourselves. I think that really is maybe what's going on, that we're kind of equalized. Now, how do we take this powerlessness and unite ourselves to become a force? Up to us, somehow
Wow.
or other. Have an essay contest, whatever, get attention on crop circles. What can we do that can take us out of this powerlessness into some way that the people become a force that defeats the corporate world, that or changes the corporate world that we live in,
or influences the corporate world, that because
Yes.
they cannot. There's 3 billion people plus on Facebook now, so we know it's possible on the internet to bring people together in one place. But what's the motivation in the platform of Facebook? We know all the problems with that. So I think David's got a few words to say.
I was just going to say, I think you both, Michael and Suzanne, come to the point that Gary would say, which is we don't necessarily need that Mandela or that person. Each of us are the leaders. Each of us are the governors. It's up to us to be that change, to demand that change, to make that change in the world. And we're each powerful enough and have a passion to do this, but we have to just choose to do it.
And every constitution says we the people, created government. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights says it is the authority of government. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. So let's bring together the will of the people. We're it. We don't have to wait for some gods to come down or other beings. We just have to come together and to bring out that people power we have inside of us, to get out of the story of division and powerlessness and come together with a story that works to make our world thrive. And so thank you so much, Suzanne, for planting the seeds for us to start creating this common story and to interact together and to work on developing a creation story, and not just a creation story, but a future story. We need a new creation story, and we need to know where we're going. What's that future story? What's that image? What's that vision that'll drive us, that people will come week after week to be part of an interactive series where the world is working and where people are solving all these problems, and the young people have kind of risen above these nations that divide us and are interacting to create the world we choose. Next week, on the people-powered planet, we're going to have an extraordinary opportunity to take action together. And we're going to take action around a movie that's out on PBS right now. Melanie and I are the impact producers on it. It's also an inspiring story because it takes us through a horrific story into how we have the power to change things. And it's called Television Event. And it's about the movie The Day After. But the great thing about Television Event is it not only captures the horror that we're on the verge of, but it's an incredibly inspiring story about Nicholas Meyer and Brandon Stoddard and the few key executives who, against all odds, brought this movie to the public. When the advertisers pulled out, the legal department said, no, ABC, you can't do this. Practice and Standards said you can't put nuclear war on me. But they persevered and did it anyway, and they changed the world because it shows in that movie that Ronald Reagan said that movie is what shifted him from war fighting. It gave him nightmares. It upset him, and he finally decided yes. And he finally went to negotiate with Gorbachev and said it's much better to be talking with each other than fighting. And he ended up making the agreements that brought the greatest reduction in nuclear weapons in history. Now we're right back on that other course toward a Cold War, and we need such a story again. So join us next week in helping promote the broadcasts that are happening now. But you can actually just go to televisionevent.com to see the upcoming broadcasts, or go to our page, theworldismycountry.com/nuclear. So join us next week for taking action to help promote these PBS broadcasts around the world. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Melanie.
Well, I just want to say to Suzanne, a heartfelt thank you so much. And I'm so excited and thrilled to hopefully be part of that group. Can I be part of that group first?
Yeah, we have to do this. Not that
Okay,
we
yes,
can,
I want to be in your
but
group.
we have to. We
to
have
collaborate.
to. It's up to us. you know?
Yes, the collaboration aspect.
And if people
is-
want to submit another essay to you, can they do that?
Well, okay, you didn't ask me this. What's my idea for saving the world now? What can we do? Everybody write essays, because it turned people on so much to feel not so powerless and to feel interested in thinking. Get the whole world writing essays, and then everybody chatting about all the essays. That would be a powerful thing to do. And I'm on, how are we going to do that? That's my what I'm after right now. Yes,
yes,
send them to me. We're in 2050, the world is working. How did we get here? Yeah. And
Love
put
it.
yourself in it. There's another aspect. Like I did something and then something happened, or maybe I did it all. But you have to get in there yourself. It seemed to be an important element in getting people thinking. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So great. And we're together now. We're all in this together. Let's do something to make this beautiful future for the future generations. And I just want to thank you all for being here. We appreciate you all. And Suzanne, thanks once again. And Arthur, do you want to do, let's do the traditional close. We've gone a little bit astray from our traditional. Arthur, go ahead and close us out officially, please.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us this week and every week on the People Powered Planet podcast.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and like this video.